So here we go. Let's continue on with the Alice Bailey Lucis Trust UN connection that we began last week. Remember, we were going to get into this stuff last week, and then I realized that's just not going to happen because we would have been here for 5 hours last week, and we're not going to do that. Now, I mentioned that Alice Bailey's Lucifer Publishing Company, or Lucis Trust, was publishing for a different group before becoming the UN publisher. So that's right. Alice Bailey's Lucis Trust is actually the publisher of materials for the United Nations. But before they did that, they were publishing for a different group. And that group is the Theosophical Society, which is Helena Blavatsky's cult built around Theosophy. And again, we went through kind of a short little timeline of how we got from Gnosticism through Theosophy to New Age to what we see today, the spirituality and all that stuff. And so Theosophy, remember Helena Blavatsky, she was basically the mentor for Alice Bailey. Alice Bailey took Theosophy and a couple other things, combined it for the New Age movement that we see happening right now that pretty much controls like the UN and whatnot. And so Alice Bailey's company was publishing the books from Helena Blavatsky's Theosophical Society. In a nutshell, Theosophy believes that Lucifer is the savior, not Jesus. They believe Lucifer is the savior of the world and not Jesus. You'll notice that it fits in line exactly with Gnosticism. We went over this with Gnosticism. Lucifer was sent down by Sophia in order to get Adam and Eve to eat the fruit so they can be free from God's prison that he locked them in. So it fits right in line with Gnosticism, where Lucifer was the one that set humanity free. So it falls right in line with there. The Theosophical Society was formed in 1875 by Helena Blavatsky and an American lawyer named Colonel Henry Olcott. Now, honestly, how many people have heard of Henry Olcott before? I've heard his name in passing, but I didn't know anything about this guy. Apparently, this dude was all wrapped up in Gnosticism and all these things. So we're not going to get into Olcott today because, I mean, he's really not worth getting into as far as I can see, except for the fact that he started the Theosophical Society with Blavatsky. It's worth noting others who were first members consisted of several other lawyers as well. And it's also worth noting that Blavatsky was the first Russian woman to be naturalized as an American citizen. I wonder if there's any significance to that with what she was bringing to America. Just something to think about. Now, instead of saying Theosophical Society the whole time, because I'm going to get tongue-tied every time, guaranteed. We're just going to call it TS. So when I say TS, that is the See, I told you, Theosophical Society. So TS has members in almost 70 different countries with the creation of other branches, such as the Martinist Order in France, which the Martinist, that goes back to the Martins. We're not going to get into that, but that is through the timeline of the different religions. The Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn. Y'all know Hermetic. That would be Hermes Trismegistus and his Hermeticism. There it is. We went through that as well. The Rosicrucian Fellowship, which again, that's in that timeline of these religions. Arcane School, which is Alice Bailey's New Age. That came from it. Agni Yoga Society, which of course that has the Eastern mysticism of yoga involved with that as well. If you're a Christian and you're doing yoga, stop immediately. As well as the I Am movement as well. There's a tricky one if you want to go and take a look at that one. I'll tell you what. So all of those branches came out of TS. Everybody who started those different organizations were all a part of the TS, and then they went out and they all started these different groups that, again, all come from the same branch through Gnosticism. And if we look at the seal of TS, be prepared for this one. Boom. That is the seal of the Theosophical Society. Isn't that something to look at? Yeah. So we're going to break this down. We're going to go through each part of this because each part has a significance to it. So let's start at the top. You notice the 3 with the and all that stuff. Well, that is a Sanskrit word for Om. Now, if you guys don't recognize, Om is the same thing that you see like Buddhists and Hindus and anybody who meditates. They usually do the Om type of deal. That's what that is. And if you don't know, Om, for the Hindus and the Buddhists, believe that it means divine beginning or divine origin. It also stands for it creates and sustains all things. To them, this word is like a divine word. It's almost like God to them, pretty much. And it also stands for unity in threefold or Trinity. So you'll see that they're taking that word Om and basically making it God. And so when you're meditating, you're sitting there trying to align your chakras, trying to align your spirits, and you're saying Om, you're taking the place of God, and you're unlocking your divine within you. Do you see how that all plays into part? Well, that is what that comes from. Now, if we keep going, you got the whirling cross. You'll notice that it kind of looks similar to something. You would be correct. That is the Sanskrit swastika. And to them, it means good. All things good. And yes, that eventually became the Nazi swastika. Interesting. Now, you'll notice the snake that surrounds everything. That is the Ouroboros, or it's the snake swallowing itself. Gnostics and alchemists, they believe in the Ouroboros because it basically stands for infinity. Life continues to move forward. It's the infinite order of life, as well as they believe it's the symbol of healing and wholeness, which you'll notice that the snake is often used in medicine. You'll notice that it's often used on the caduceus, which was carried by Hermes, a part of Hermes Trismegistus. They believe that the snake has the wholeness, the healing effect, and it means infinite life. Wonderful. It's wonderful. Now we got the divine triangles there. You'll notice it's in the shape of the Star of David. We've talked about how the upwards triangle is the divine masculine and the downwards triangle is divine feminine. It also points up and down, which means as above, so below as well on their meaning. Then in the middle, you've got the Ankh. Now, we've talked about the Ankh a bunch of times. You'll notice that it looks very similar to the feminist logo, as well as alchemy's Mercury, which means you will transcend all of heaven and earth type of deal. So we understand what's going on with that already. And the motto, there is no religion higher than truth. Basically, what they are saying is truth or wisdom or knowledge surpasses religion, which ultimately, that's exactly what the Gnostics believe, because it's ultimate enlightenment, ultimate wisdom, ultimate knowledge that will make you transcend out of creation. And it's higher than all religion. That is the seal for Helena Blavatsky's Theosophical Society. You can see a lot of mystery religion all intertwined in there. So we kind of got a little bit of snippet. We understand who's behind it, where it came from, when it was created, and what their seal means. Well, let's take a look at what's going on with the Theosophical Society today. That's right. The TS, there we go. Got to remember my own rule. TS is going on today. So much so, there is TS of America. Let's take a look at see what they've got going on.
We're each on a unique spiritual path. While our paths may differ on the surface, there are truths and values we all share. Truths that transcend our religions, philosophies, and traditions. Values that support an open and connected community. At the Theosophical Society in America, We seek with open minds, respect the unity of all life, transform through inner awareness. Since 1875, we have not wavered in our mission to uplift the consciousness of humanity. Today, we're working harder than ever to uphold these sacred values by offering resources that span all spiritual paths. Explore rich and diverse online and in-person programs. Browse hundreds of videos on our YouTube channel. Utilize our world-class spiritual library. Discover all the ways you can nurture your spiritual growth. Transform yourself. Transform our world.
Isn't that just wonderful? It's just daisies and roses and rainbows and unicorns farting cupcakes and all this stuff. This is like, you could see that they're catering to all the different religions uniting, coming together. They've got a library from all the different traditions and faiths and everything. This is, again, the reason why they're able to do that is because all the different religions, they all come from the same thing. And it's even in their motto, the truth, or in their words, that their truth isn't the truth. The truth is the Bible, obviously. But when they reference truth in their motto, they're talking about knowledge. And so that means they just pick a la carte from the different religions to find the one that they think is correct. And they're able to do that because they're all the same thing. But started in 1875, still going on today. Interesting. Now, one of the presidents of TS was a woman named Annie Besant, or Besant. One of those. I've heard it both ways. I don't know. Don't hit me for that, but we'll say Besant. How about that? Annie Besant, who took over a branch after Blavatsky's death. So the TS group, after Blavatsky died, split into two different branches, and she took over one of them. Now, Besant was one of the leading characters of the Fabian Society. Now, and again, I don't know if I'm saying that correctly. Just, you guys know what I'm talking about. The Fabians is a small committee built to establish world socialism and influences Britain's Labour Party. Now, this group they've got a rich history. And when I say rich, I mean in terms of who's behind it, as well as the money behind it. They've got a rich history and a lot of pull on a lot of different people. And we're going to get into some of that tonight. So their goal to create world socialism, and they're already influencing Britain's Labour Party. You might know that some of them, like Tony Blair and whatnot, they're a part of this. The list is huge. Now, if we take a look at the Fabian window, which was made back in 1910, the Fabian window holds the Fabian crest. And this group has a crest with a wolf in sheep's clothing. So you've got the stained glass window, and then you've got the crest in the middle of it. Here's a better look at it. It's a wolf wearing sheep's clothing. You know how I always say that I don't believe in coinkydinks? Yeah, I don't believe in coinkydinks. That is telling. Very, very telling. Now, one of the key people in the Fabian Society is a man by the name of Leonard Woolf. I wonder if the crest came from his name in any type of way. I don't know. But it's spelled with two L's too. So not only is it Wolf, or not two L's, but two O's. So not only is it Wolf with two O's, but it's also wool as well. Wolf in sheep's clothing, wool. I don't know. I just think that's kind of interesting how that all kind of goes together on that. Just thought I'd throw it out there. I don't know if that's a fact or not. I'm just throwing it out there. Now, one of the key people in the Fabian Society, again, is Leonard Woolf. Woolf was one of the guys who helped establish policy groundwork for the League of Nations. So we've already discussed how the League of Nations, how it was formed, Rockefeller funded and created through the selection, not election, selection of Woodrow Wilson through World War I, and that came to be the League of Nations from there. Well, it's actually this guy, part of the Fabian Society, who helped establish the very first policy groundwork for the League of Nations, and his influence came from his 1916 work called International Government. That's the paper. You can still find it online. It's kind of a pain to read, but you can still find it there. It's this paper that Woolf, you can see Ellis Woolf there, prepared for the Fabian Research Department. And you'll notice introduction by Bernard Shaw. We'll discuss Shaw here in a second because he plays a part in this as well. International government, though. This is what basically helped the groundwork for the League of Nations. You see how it all just intertwines together. Again, we would look at these events as just two separate things. You got the League of Nations over here getting their stuff done, and then you've got the Fabian Society getting their stuff done. But people wouldn't notice that those things are actually interconnected. Not only that, but the Fabian Society is interconnected to Helena Blavatsky's Theosophy or Theosophical Society. I'm breaking my own rule again, but you're seeing how this trail continues to hold together. These three groups, again, would be identified as three separate entities, but in fact, they're actually 100% connected. I mean, this is what is forming what we see today. It literally is what is forming this stuff back in 1875 and 1916 and all this stuff. Woolf was also a Cambridge Apostle. Yes, this is a real thing. Cambridge Apostle, which is a secret society built of socialist and Marxist individuals who studied politics through Satanist and mystic rituals. This group, the Cambridge Apostles, is a group of people who they perform rituals and communicate with the spirit world, and they communicate with other dimensions in order to receive instruction that they can then take into setting policies up for the world. They're going to different dimensions to get new knowledge from those who have passed through creation, and they're bringing it back so they can implement it in the world today. These are people that are helping direct things through the spirit world. Now, who are they communicating with? Starts with a D, ends in an N. This is a real society. And Woolf, who's a part of the Fabian Society, who believes in Theosophy, who helped write policy that started the League of Nations, was getting instruction from the spirit world. But I thought it was just politics. I don't think so. The name comes from the society. The name of the society comes from the 12 founders of the society, and they believe in the direct reference to the 12, like 12 apostles, 12 disciples, stuff like that. That's where they take it from. That's in a lot of these secret societies, they hold the number 12 as a special number, and they do so in this society as well. Now, Woolf went on to create another club, a socialist society called the 1917 Club, which included a man by the name of Aldous Huxley, most known for writing the famous book Brave New World. That's right. This dude, most people don't know about Huxley or a lot of these writers. Now, I've held the idea for a while, the more that I look into these things, because I know a lot of people say, oh, they wrote Brave New World and 1984 and some of these other books like that. They wrote them as warnings to society. Well, I can't speak on Orwell exactly, but I can speak for Huxley here. He wasn't warning about Brave New World. That's what he was aiming for. He wanted that. I kid you not. Huxley was a Fabian, a socialist, a Marxist, and a spiritualist. And he believed the same things like what Barbara Marx Hubbard's trying to do with technology. He believed the same thing back then. Brave New World wasn't a warning. It was a guidebook. That's what he wanted. He was a part of this. He was a New Age practitioner. It's just sometimes, I guess you can take it, even though that's what he was wanting, we can kind of take it as a warning because that's what they're going. But sometimes we just need to look at the actual direction of what these people actually believed in. And he was all into that stuff. I'll tell you what. Again, Huxley was also a Fabian along with Woolf and was a friend of none other than Victor Rothschild. Huxley was a friend of Victor Rothschild. He was a part of the Rothschild group there. Other members of Woolf's 1917 club include H.G. Wells. Yes, that's the same guy who wrote The Time Machine as well as War of the Worlds. He was a New Age practitioner. He was a spiritualist. He was a socialist. He was all wrapped up in this group as well as a guy by the name of Oswald Mosley. Now, Mosley was also a Fabian, an associate to Victor Rothschild as well. Also worth noting, we've brought up Victor once before. He was the one who funded James Lovelock's Gaia theory. Worth noting that Victor Rothschild was also a Cambridge apostle, as well as he was a scientist working on eugenics and basically trying to, I don't know the exact words, but he was trying to make it so you could alter male sperm in order to design a baby. He was working on stuff like that. That's why he funded the Gaia theory from James Lovelock. So Victor is no good guy. Mosley ended up meeting Annie Besant, who was the president of TS in India, and began following the Theosophy beliefs from there. The ties of Theosophy religion is highly connected and influential in the Fabian mindset and the Fabian society, as well as global socialism. So again, we've got these, leanings here of socialism and Marxism and stuff, again, which people would think is over here, and then Theosophy is over here, when in actuality, they're together. They all work together. All these people, all these religions, all these political leanings are all intertwined with the same belief structure. This Fabian belief system, along with New Age and spiritualism, carried over into other areas, including a man by the name of Oliver Lodge. Now, this dude is interesting. Let's take a look at Oliver here. Oliver Lodge, he was a member of the Fabian Society. He was a physicist in radio waves and electromagnets, which he used to help him in his spiritualist and pseudoscience stuff. He tried to use radio waves and magnets and all those things to try and speak with different spirits and speak with the dead and whatnot. He often spoke to mediums because he wanted to speak to his dead relatives and whatnot. So he was heavy in that. He was also a member of the American Philosophical Society. We've already mentioned them once before with McNamara last week. He was a lecturer at the London School of Economics. Hang on to that because that's going to be a key part of this. He was a member of the Ghost Club, president for the Society for Psychical Research. Hang on to that. We'll bring them up as well. And he was an associate of Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, which, if you don't know that name, he was the one who created Sherlock Holmes. He was also a spiritualist. He often tried to communicate with the dead as well. That one was especially disappointing for me because I was a huge fan of Sherlock Holmes, and now I just can't pick up the book after finding that. So that one sucked for me, just to be honest. But yeah, some of these guys, Huxley and Wells and Doyle and stuff, man, these guys were wrapped up in some seriously bad stuff. But Oliver Lodge is a big dude. Now, hang on to the London School of Economics as well as the SPR. We're going to talk about those. And another to note, as well as Lodge, is a British Labour politician who was a disciple and personal secretary to Mosley, named John Strachey, who was also a friend of Victor Rothschild. So we've got the connection of the Theosophy, the Fabian Society, the Rothschild, as well as another politician to wrap up into that. Now, Strachey, along with Victor Rothschild, well, he was connected to a man named Victor Gollancz. And they went on to co-found a group called the Left Book Club. I know there's a lot of names here. Like I said, this was one of the most crazy things that I had to get into. But Strachey, who was a friend of Mosley, who's connected to Victor Rothschild, teamed up with a guy named Victor Gollancz, and they co-founded the Left Book Club. And they wrote some of the wonderful classics, such as The Last Earth, a Palestine story, Ain't I a Woman? Black Women and Feminism, The Communist Manifesto, Karl Marx and Frederick Engels, Less is More, How Degrowth Will Save the World, How Capitalism Underdeveloped Black America, Problems in Race, Political Economy, and Society, Beyond the Fragments, Feminism and the Making of Socialism. These are some of the publishings from the Left Book Club. Now, why do I bring this up? Because this is kind of just like a random little pit stop with some names and some books and whatnot. Because this, again, ties into the mystery agenda. We've talked about this already. All of those subjects, the feminism and the racial justice, the social justice, the alphabet stuff, the socialism, all these things, we've talked about it, comes from mystery religion. The same groups that are a part of the New Age religions, if you go and you look at their website, what do they believe? It matches word for word to those political signs that we see in the yard, which says love is love and water is life and Black Lives Matter and all that stuff. They all come from the same thing. And so we can see here through this little entwinement of people, the same belief system back then that we see today. It only goes to prove even further that mystery is leading all of this. I mean, this is the same stuff, even back then to today. Nothing has changed. And you look at the names involved, and it tells you. Now, Gollancz, he co-founded the Left Book Club. He was the governor of Hebrew University in Jerusalem. He is a Jew. He published books of George Orwell. Now, again, I don't know exactly what Orwell believed, so I can't speak on that, but he was wrapped up in somebody that he shouldn't have been. And he aligned his beliefs of Judaism, but also Pelagianism. I can't say this, darn it. Pelagianism. That's the best I got. Basically, what that is it's the belief that that we are not born into sin and it can in fact reach human perfection. I'm sorry, I can't say that word. It's just like some people can't say aluminum or chrysanthemum. I can't say that word. It's just not going to happen. But that's what it means. Basically, they don't believe in the original sin. They do not believe that we are born into sin. They believe that we can actually reach human perfection, which, as we know, no, the Bible says otherwise. We are born into sin. From the very beginning, we need Jesus Christ. Well, these people don't believe in that. And so he was one of them. And again, we can see where that's that idea of you can reach perfection, you can reach awakening, you can reach enlightenment. It all kind of just comes from, again, the same belief system. Now, Goethe also went on to create an organization called War on Want. Now, we're not really going to get into them. If you want to take a look at them, you can. They're still active today. But basically, this is another group built upon world socialism and Marxism, along with social justice and alphabet agenda. And they're one of the people that are supporting the Arabs in the Palestine thing right now that we see going on. But he went on to create War on Want. So we've covered a lot so far already. A lot of names, a lot of groups. But the thing is again, it's the same belief system, the same belief structure, the same spiritual agenda that is leading all these people and all these groups. And again, it's mind-blowing, at least to me. It's mind-blowing to me to go through and see how all these people are all working in conjunction for the same exact agenda. Everybody's so confused how all these people, all these specifically today, all these billionaires and all these power people and stuff, how are they all working together on the same agenda and getting things done? And why are they not all eating themselves alive and trying to fight for power and all that stuff? Because they're being led by something spiritual. I started off last week with the same thing. It's the only way that this is possible through all this time for all these people and groups to all be on the same page for all these things. The only way that that's possible is to have a spiritual plan leading all of this to what we see. Again, and I know sometimes I may sound like a broken record, but when you look at this, they all look like separate events and different people, and you know, nothing really conjoins, nothing really goes together. But as we go through this, we can see that everything does, in fact, go together. Everything does, in fact, all conjoin towards what we see happening today. This is the mystery of religion. This is what we read about in Revelation 17 and 18. This is the subject that nobody wants to talk about. They'll reference chapter 17 all the time. 10 kings, 10 kings, 10 kings, 10 kings, 10 kings, 10 kings. Okay. What led the 10 kings to that point? Because it goes on to say that it was her who made them drunk with fornication. She seduced them into these things. Well, what we're seeing here is a whole lot of people all getting seduced to the same agenda. Why do we not talk about this? Why? To me, this really makes things a whole lot more clear and understanding. I don't know. I don't have any of that in my notes. I just off the cuff, but it's mind-boggling to me. Because to me, this is just all the proof you would ever need. I mean, honestly, all this does, we're through 18 parts or 17 and a half. It just confirms exactly what the Bible says. It's proof that what the Bible tells us. I mean, we're watching this stuff jump off the page. It's the living word of God, right? Well, as we look at this sure seems living to me because we are seeing it actually happen in front of our own eyes. We've seen it all throughout history, and we continue to see it today. See, to me, that's fascinating. That's just fascinating to me. Okay, enough with that. Keep going. So, from here, we're going to look at the Society for Psychical Research and the London School of Economics. So those are the two things that Oliver Lodge was a part of that I said hang on to. Now, the SPR, which is the Society for Psychical Research, rather than saying that, we're going to call it SBR. SBR began in London in 1882, and it was a research group to study the psychological stuff, so like psychics and mediums and all that stuff, the paranormal, pseudoscience, and spiritualism. This is what they were founded to do. Here is their logo if you guys want to take a look. Wonderful little emblem there in the middle. Yeah, isn't it wonderful? But so that's what they were part of. They were part of the whole paranormal, ghosts, spirit stuff, Ouija board, along with pseudoscience, psychological stuff. Can we do more with our minds, read minds, telekinesis, that type of stuff? This is what they're studying. They're still going today, and they're still actively studying a lot of this stuff. So you can actually go to their website, and if you go to current projects, you can actually see what they're studying right now, actually. Past presidents of SBR include Fabian Society member Oliver Lodge. He was a president of this place, as well as TS member William James. Now, we've mentioned William James before several times, actually, and I told you he played a very important part. He was a president at SBR. So let's take we may not remember. Let's take a look at William James. Who is this guy? He is a member of the Theosophical Society. He's president for Society for Psychical Research. He was involved with the metaphysical and theory of mind beliefs. He believes you can actually create reality with your mind. He followed New Thought spiritualism, obviously, because he was a member of Theosophy there. He brought psychology teaching to America. This is the guy who offered America's first psychology classes, and he did it at none other than Harvard, which he created the Harvard Psychology Department. And like I said, a lot of New Thought, a lot of New Age, big time guys come from Harvard, their psychology department. I mentioned that the first time we brought him up, and we've already mentioned a few people that have come from Harvard Psychology Department as well. I'm sure we're going to run into a few as we continue on. He was also a founder of the American Society for Psychical Research. So the original was in London, obviously, and he ended up founding the American branch of SPR. So William James ain't exactly the best guy when it comes to spreading this stuff. You'll also find that there are quite a few Fabian Society members who were also part of the SPR as well. We're not going to go through the list. I don't see the point. If you really want to look it up, you can. But there's a mismatch of people that are in both, of course, because, again, if you're part of Fabian Society, most of them believed in the Theosophy, which then goes into the SPR. And again, it's all intertwined. Now, let's move on to the next part. The London School of Economics. This one is big because we're seeing a major progression to something coming today that's active today, which I don't think a lot of people realize. And I've been sitting on this for a while. I don't know what I was going to do with it. And then as I started looking into this, I realized exactly why I was sitting on it. And thank you, Lord, for that, because I think that was absolutely his doing. He said, hang on to this. Just hang on to it. And I hung on to it. So all credit to the Lord for that one. So thank you. Now, let's take a look at the London School of Economics. I'm sure some of you guys have heard this before or have seen it. They're pretty well renowned all across the world. There's some big people who are a part of this group. Yeah, who are they? Where'd they come from? Well, the LSE, London School for Economics, we're just going to say LSE because it's easier, began in 1895, being founded by none other than 4 Fabian Society members: Sidney Webb, Beatrice Webb, Graham Wallace, and George Bernard Shaw. Oh, there's Bernard Shaw again. Remember, he was the one who wrote the foreword for Woolf's 1916 international government paper that helped start the League of Nations. There he is. Told you we'd see him again. These are 4 Fabian Society members who founded the London School of Economics. So the London School of Economics is founded by people who believed in Theosophy, New Age, New Thought, as well as socialism and Marxism. Boy, that's not good. That's not good at all. Oh, boy. Oh, boy. So the LSE was heavily funded by a specific family. Now, you might be wondering, which family? Is it the Rockefellers? No, it's not the Rockefellers. It's actually a family that's already involved in the Fabian Society, and that would be none other than the Rothschilds. The LSE was heavily funded by the Rothschilds, who were a part of the Fabian Society. Sidney Webb was involved with Nathan Rothschild, 1st Baron Rothschild, or known as Natty Rothschild. There he is. Okay, I'm just going to be honest. When it comes to anything Rothschild, it's a pain to try and connect everything because their names are so weird. And if you try and look up Nathan Rothschild, it comes up with other Rothschilds and stuff. This family's twisted, guys. I'm not going to go into all that. It's sick. I'm not going to get into it, but it's a pain when it comes to anything Rothschild. But this is the guy. This is Natty Rothschild, who was an associate with Sidney Webb, and basically he was the one that helped fund LSE. So we got more Rothschild involved with this stuff. Who would have thought? Natty, the Rothschild guy, was helping Sidney restructure the University of London, which then incorporated the Fabians LSE in 1898. So LSE got incorporated with the University of London because of Rothschild. Always, goodness, it's just, guys, this is insane. I'm sorry. Okay. Also involved with LSE was Evelyn de Rothschild, as well as he was a serving officer of LSE's Grantham Research Institute on climate change. So we've got the Rothschild here, Natty Rothschild, who funded LSE and incorporated it with the University of London. He was a part of the Fabian Society. Then you've got Evelyn de Rothschild, who he was involved with the LSE, as well as an officer of Grantham Research Institute on Climate Change, which is another branch of LSE that has to do with climate change and the environment and all that stuff. We getting it? I really hope so. Try researching this stuff. Just telling you. Okay, if that's not enough, there's more here. There's more. That's not enough. Let's throw in mega support and funding of LSE from the Rockefeller Foundation, as well as Laura Spelman Foundation, which is the mother of John Jr., John D. Rockefeller Jr., and grandmother to Lawrence Spelman. Remember Lawrence Spelman? He was the one who was funding all the things like Silicon Valley, as well as the paranormal and the metaphysical and the New Age, as well as funded Barbara Marx Hubbard and all that stuff. Guys, seriously, this is how interconnected all of this stuff is. It truly is. Now, I was curious. I wanted to know some names that came from LSE. I just want to know, because there's a ton of them. I'm not saying everybody who's on that list is all warped like everybody else, but I just found some kind of curious names who have been involved with LSE. You got Pierre Trudeau. He was the Prime Minister of Canada. You also know his son, Justin. Yep, he was there. David Rockefeller was a big player. We haven't even gotten to David Rockefeller, guys. That's going to be a monster. You're going to need to hang on for that one. You got Ursula von der Leyen, who is the president of the European Commission. She also sits on the board of the WEF. You got Jeffrey Goldstein, who he was a director of the World Bank. You got Janet Yellen. You got Robert F. Kennedy Jr. George Soros as well. You got Keith Murdoch, who's the father of Rupert Murdoch. Christopher Ruddy, CEO, and he owns the majority of Newsmax. Don't believe any media out there, I'm telling you guys. You got Lionel Walter Rothschild. Again, there's another Rothschild. He was a governor for the LSE, as well as Bertrand Russell, was part of the Fabian Society as well as a Cambridge Apostle. Yeah, you guys can go take a look at some of the other names on there. You got like the Crown Prince of Dubai. You got people like Mick Jagger and Angelina Jolie. You've got prime ministers and presidents and up the yin yang for that. Go take a look. And again, I'm not saying everybody on that list is, involved with this stuff. I just find it curious who's been to that school, because they were clearly founded on something that ain't good. We just went over that. Founded on Theosophy and socialism and Marxism and all this stuff. Clearly, it ain't good. Plus, it was funded by the Rothschilds as well. Now, here's where we start to see what's going on with today. So hang with me. If you've been lost so far, try and reel it back in. Pay attention to this part, because this is something that we are actually seeing happen today. So here we go. Now, similar to what Morris Strong, Klaus Schwab, the Fabian Society, and others in this mystery religion have said, and I talked about this specifically when we went over Morris Strong, they want to introduce socialism through capitalism. That's one of the goals that they want to do. They want to introduce socialism through capitalism. How is that possible? It's possible. I'm going to show you how and what they're working on. And they want to introduce it through capitalism. And there's nobody better to do this than the ones who basically got everything rolling from the Fabian Society to the LSE and all these things. None other than the Rothschilds. And what am I talking about? I'm talking about the Council for Inclusive Capitalism. Check this out.
È necessario urgente un sistema economico giusto, affidabile e in grado di rispondere alle sfide più radicali che l'umanità e il pianeta si trovano ad affrontare.
We are answering Pope Francis's challenge to create more inclusive economies that spread the benefit of capitalism more equitably and allow individuals to realize their full potential.
Too much wealth has accreted to too few people.
If you make money, what's the point if you're not prepared to share it? If the people who help make that wealth for you can't live with dignity.
It's inclusive capitalism, though, and we have to recognize that starting from where we are to where we need to get to, we need to bring everyone along, and there will be adjustments that come with that.
We do need the private sector's ingenuity, capital, technology, people, everything, their passion to come to the party.
Aligning our innovation with the UN Sustainable Development Goals and the priorities of inclusive capitalism is both a business and sustainability imperative.
Two reasons, I think, why I'd say concrete commitments to inclusive capitalism matter. I mean, the first, and not to be underestimated, really important, is they can inspire other people. And the second thing that I would say around concrete public commitments is they can help build trust.
We are stewards of this earth. It's our duty to keep it clean and to keep it decent for future generations.
Look, the fact that different religions need to come together on all matters is just the crying need of the times in our world. Faith cannot be used to pull us apart. Faith is meant to bring us together. And the fact that I'm a Sikh and somebody else is a different religion, to me, doesn't matter.
Our work is indeed about social justice, which is rooted in the gospel. The idea that every person deserves to live in a just society.
We need a new system focused on the well-being of people. It's a big challenge, but if it is done right, the benefits will be immense.
it's not just an asset owner, it's not just an asset manager, it's not just a CEO, it's not just these boards of directors. We have to work collectively over the long term.
We invite all businesses, large and small, and individuals to join us as stewards for inclusive capitalism by going to our website, agreeing the principles, and making your own commitments to inclusive capitalism. Please join us. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. So, you notice, first of all, this group was founded by Lynn Forrester de Rothschild. You know how I mentioned Evelyn Rothschild, who was a part of the LSE board and all that stuff? Well, they were married. So you've got the connection there again. You've got Rothschild, who's leading and funding this, and it's the same idea of introducing socialism through capitalism that we talked about from the Fabian Society all the way up till now. You see how it's all connected, and it's the same faces and people that are involved, so it's there. The other thing you notice is they throw faith and spirituality in there, not just in the term of you need to have faith for this thing. No, but we need all religions to come together. But it's just politics, right? It's never just politics. That's what Satan wants you to think. It's politics. These evil people. They want all the money. They want to control. They want bigger government. No. There is a spiritual agenda behind this. And you'll notice that it's led by none other than the Pope as well. The Vatican is involved. So the Council for Inclusive Capitalism, we'll call it the CIC, is built to grab control and centralize the biggest globally influential corporations and join them together with a unified government. Sounds a lot like what Mussolini said, right? The unification of corporation and government is the true definition of fascism. Well, it's actually also called corporativism as well. Corporativism. That's what they're trying to do. They're trying to centralize all the biggest global, most influential companies into one centralized group. That's what they're working on. That is socialism through capitalism. It's what they've been working on for years and years and years. Once they get them in control, then they're going to push the agenda, push the ideology over profit. Now, they'll get profit. You'll get the ideology. This is how you combine government and corporations together in order to instill the mystery religion agenda broadly. This group was formed back in roughly 2019, 2020. So right when the 2020 stuff happened, kind of convenient, right? This is when it happened, by Lynn Forrester de Rothschild. She was the wife of Evelyn de Rothschild. He's dead now. With the idea of bringing socialism through capitalism. This is exactly what they were working on through the Fabians and through LSE, with leadership of not only various religious groups, but also global corporations and Pope Francis. They make a point to express unity of religions to make this global economic system happen. We talk about the Antichrist beast system. It's got the three pillars. You've got the one world government, you got the one world economy, and you got the one world religion. Ever present here is the one world economy and the one world religion revealing heads. Now remember, like we said, most people focus on these two over here, government and economy. Not much attention on the one world religion, when in fact that is the most important one, at least to Satan, because that's his whole goal. He's using these two to make this so the world doesn't worship God and they worship Satan. And so that's why he's using religion, he's using spirituality, he's using faith, he's using come together, unify under this economic system that's going to be controlled by this one government. Because in the end, all that's going to come together so you worship me, not him. Several of the members of the CIC include MasterCard, Alliance, DuPont, United Nations, BP, which is a huge oil and power and all that type of stuff, Bank of America, Johnson & Johnson, Visa, the Rockefeller Foundation, Ford Foundation, IBM, Verizon, State Street. You know how we talk about the big three when it comes to investment groups? Everybody knows BlackRock. Everybody knows Vanguard. And then you got State Street. Those are the big three. They're the ones who pretty much own like everything. Well, State Street's also on board with this, and a boatload of others. Again, you can go to their website and check out. There's a ton of them. Again, we'd be here for just 2 hours going over how many people are already on board with this. When you look at ESG, DEI, the SDGs, as well as the IDGs, the Inner Development Goals, this is a folding of all of them together, being led by a mystery agenda into a grander plan of the beast system. ESG, DEI, the SDGs, and the IDGs. Those are the 4 that are really leading everything right now when it comes to this stuff. Again, everybody would look at this and go, again, politics. It's really not. All of these are rooted in a spirituality movement. We've talked about it. I mean, we have literally talked about all these and how they are, in fact, all come from that New Age belief, which comes from Theosophy and down and down and down, 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 down to Gnosticism. These are all spiritually led things, and these are all being introduced in corporations and governments and churches and all the policies that we see taking place in order to form this beast system, and these are getting folded into this inclusive capitalism as well. The social justice, alphabet agenda, climate agenda, DPI, which is the digital public interface, or they rechristened it intelligence now, are all present in this. But what about the technology? What about AI? Well, don't worry. That's in there too. Here's a little interview with Evelyn about how AI, or not Evelyn, Lynn, my bad, about how AI is going to lead this revolution. You're going to want to hear this.
The first major global summit on AI, artificial intelligence safety, it is being held right now in the United Kingdom this week. And our next guest wrote an op-ed in the London Times about how this gathering can reset capitalism, making it more inclusive. Joining us right now is Lady Lynn Rothschild. She's the Council for Inclusive Capitalism founder and CEO. And good morning to you. Tell us about this op-ed and tell us how you think AI can make capitalism, if you will, more inclusive. What are you arguing?
Thanks for having me, Andrew, and greetings from London. First of all, it's a great achievement of the British government to convene global leaders from the G7 and China, as well as the biggest technology companies in the world and the best universities in the world thinking about AI. Because AI is going to change everything, for good and for ill. I say, why aren't we asking, how can AI address the structural deficiencies in our economic system? How can AI make our economy work for all? How can AI create a society where it's not us and them, but it's where we all equally believe that the system works for us, just that it works equally? That's all that anyone wants. And government regulates here, technology innovates there, but I'm calling for a joint declaration of
the private sector and the public sector to the common good. It would be the first time in history. There are so many changes. That's why I'm saying it's a root and branch reform of the economy, and there's no better place to start than with AI, since AI is going to be this
Lady Lynn,
amazing, magical.
If I was, you've been talking for many years, and we've had you on the broadcast a bunch before about the idea of inclusive capitalism. But one of the things that's happened, and you and I have talked about this, I think, on TV and off air as well, is the backlash that has come from companies doing anything more, frankly, than focusing on profits, right? I mean, we've seen what's happened even the last several years around different companies that have spoken out on either spoken out on different issues or tried to readjust their business models. And what's happened? We've either seen politicians come and there's been a backlash, or in some cases, shareholders have come and so with a backlash. And so the question is sort of, how do you even begin to do this?
Well, I think begin is the point. That's why I'm saying we have to have a declaration where business and government together make a joint statement to the public about why capitalism, understood to be for all the people, is the best system in the world. And that's not free market alone. It's free market that's dictated by, as Adam Smith said, morality and ethics. And that's all I'm asking for. And I am not a proponent of socialism. I am trying to make capitalism truly the greatest system in the world.
So she wants free market capitalism to be regulated by, so that's not free. Interesting. She's talking about the global good, the common good, the greater good, but she's not a proponent of socialism. But those are the same principles. But she goes on specifically to say how she wants AI to be the leading factor that just revolutionizes the root of the economy. This is not bringing in a new system. This is or introducing some type of new system. No, this is literally the formation of trying to bring in that economy that Revelation speaks about. An economy where, again, they're talking about socialism through capitalism. With what we see going on, I firmly believe that it's going to be more in line with a neo-feudalistic technocracy, where you're going to have the kings and the peasants, and then it's all going to be ruled by technology. Well, that's exactly what they're aiming for here. That's exactly what they're aiming for. That's what she was talking about. She speaks on an entire global reform of economy down to the roots using government, AI, and spirituality. In order to reach a greater good for all, like she said, the economy has to meet New Age ethics. So she's talking about blending ethics. She didn't say New Age, but when she says ethics, she means the New Age ethics, because he was talking about how corporations and businesses, they start standing for social justice stuff and people start fighting back. That's what he was referencing. Well, she's talking about ethics. Well, those are New Age ethics. It's a mystery religion ethics. And so this economy must be matched with that, with a central control. One world government, one world economy, one world religion. In that interview, she mentioned all three pillars of that beast system. Now remember, the Club of Rome, at their formation, stated that the greatest enemy to humanity is us, is humanity. They also stated they actually created this crisis, this problem, the problem of humanity, in order to direct the world where they want. Lynn Rothschild is stating the exact same thing for the economy. We are the problem. And so They must step in, uproot everything in order to fix the problem. And it's all led by mystery religion. This is not just happenstance, coincidence. Any of it. You think it's coincidence that the same family who funded the Fabian Society, that's connected to Helena Blavatsky's Theosophical Society, they funded that to introduce world socialism, and that same family that funded that is also the same family that's leading this? You think that's coincidence after all these years? Because I don't. Not at all. They funded the Fabian Society. They funded the London School of Economics. And they're funding this. Century of work. All with the same agenda. Backed by big money and spirituality. That's not coincidence. That's a spiritual plan led by a spiritual entity. That's the words of the Bible jumping off the page. And again, being 100% correct.